Okay, get this. What if you could change a whole city's future just by reading an old book? Sounds crazy, right? Like something from a fantasy movie. But believe it or not, this actually happened. Let's dive in. Hey everyone. So let me ask you something. Have you ever found a secret that just changed everything? You know, like finding a hidden map or a secret diary in your attic that tells you something huge about your family? Well, that's kind of what's about to happen in our story today. A whole city is about to find its own secret diary, and trust me, it's going to change everything for them. All right, so let's set the scene. The people in Jerusalem had just done something amazing. They rebuilt this giant wall all around their city. So on the outside, super strong, super safe. But there was a big problem. Even though the walls were fixed, inside, the people's hearts were still kind of broken. It's like having a really tough phone case, but the screen on the inside is all cracked. That's how they felt. And that brings us right to the main event, to a city with a big secret that's about to come out. So imagine this. You're in the middle of the city, and there's this huge crowd gathered around a wooden stage. Everyone's there. Moms, dads, kids, everyone. And up on the stage is this guy, Ezra, and he's holding a very special, very old book. Everyone gets super quiet. What's in that book? This is a huge moment. They're about to hear some words that have been forgotten for a long, long time. So, what is this special book? It's the law of God. Think of it like a team rule book. It's got all the rules and stories God gave his people to help them live awesome lives. But here's the thing. The book was written in an old language, so Ezra had helpers in the crowd explaining what the words meant so everyone could understand. Pretty cool, huh? And as Ezra started reading, something incredible happened. Everyone was totally glued to his words. And as they listened, it's like a light bulb went on in everyone's head at the same time. They were finally understanding all the rules they were supposed to be following and realizing they'd been breaking them for a really, really long time. Uh-oh. Now, you'd think this would be a super sad moment, right? But this is where the story takes a crazy turn. The tears started, but they turned into a huge celebration. Yeah, at first, when the people really heard the law, they just started crying. The whole crowd. They were so sad about all the mistakes they'd made and for not following God's rules. But then, their leader Nehemiah stood up and said something totally unexpected. He was like, hey, stop crying. Don't be sad. Today is a holy day. The joy of the Lord is your strength. He was basically saying, God sees that you're sorry, but today isn't for being sad. It's for being happy and strong because of God's love. And they didn't just say, be happy. They gave them a how to celebrate list. First, eat lots of yummy food. Second, drink sweet drinks. Third, and this is super important, share your food with people who don't have any. And fourth, just be super joyful because God forgives. This was a party for the whole city. And guess what? They did it. The whole city went from crying to cheering. They had this huge festival called the Feast of Tabernacles that lasted for days. They even built little forts out of branches to live in, just to remember their history. And every single day, they kept listening to Ezra read the book. It was awesome. But after the party was over, the people knew they needed to do something more. They wanted to make a big promise. So they decided to make a sure covenant. That's like a super serious pinky promise times a million with God. They actually wrote it all down on paper and had all their leaders sign it to make it official. So what was in this super serious promise? Well, they promised 4 big things. 1, we're going to obey God's laws. 2, we won't mix our families with people who worship other gods. 3, we'll keep the Sabbath day special and not go shopping. And 4, we'll take care of God's house with our gifts. Pretty clear, right? So they had messed up, they said they were sorry, and now they made a promise. It was time for a joyful, fresh start. And this is the number one thing to remember from this whole story. When you truly turn back to God, it doesn't end with feeling bad or scared. No way. It ends with one thing: real, lasting joy. God saw that they were truly sorry and that they meant their promise. So he accepted their repentance. They were forgiven. Imagine a huge, heavy backpack of mistakes just disappearing. That's what it felt like. They could be happy, not because they were perfect, but because they had a totally fresh start. So that makes me wonder, what does a fresh start feel like to you? Is it like the first day of summer vacation or finally leveling up in a game you've been stuck on? This story shows us that a real fresh start with God is the best feeling of all, because it's about walking into a future that's full of joy. Thanks so much for hanging out with me today.